I never done a pinned comment, so I'm finna figure out how to do this right now.
You just post it like a regular comment, and then when it's posted, you just hold your finger down on it, and it'll come up and ask you to pin it. Is this good?
No.
I don't think it's working. I don't think that. All right. So, welcome to GOGOTALX, brought to you by GOGOTIX. And today we are talking with my main man, Falconry. How are you, my friend?
Really good. You know what I was laughing about? Did you see the Teddy Riley and Babyface YouTube live or Instagram live joint?
Yep.
Bro,
Both of them. The first awful one and the one that
I didn't see the comeback. Was it good when they did the comeback?
Oh yeah, no, it was good. Yeah, I mean, they still were having some technical issues, but and as we're speaking right now, like this is the reason why I moved.
It's the exact reason why we're on YouTube,
right? Because even now, like my wife is trying to, my producer is trying to put trying to pin the comment on our side, and it's just not working. So yeah, Instagram has some issues. What's up, Brian? Hey Brian, go over to gogotix.co because we're doing this on YouTube Live, and you can get to it straight from the website, which is GOGOTix, GOGOTIX.co, and just pick today's show and click watch, and it'll take you right to the YouTube, and you can watch it. You see both sides of the conversation and all that. So
I'm gonna tell my people the same thing. So. Cool. Hey, everybody on this here Instagram Live, the real conversation with my man Malachi is on YouTube, and that is that right here. And this pinned comment is how you're going to find it. So if you want to come and join us on YouTube, that's where you're going to get the whole shebang. Or you can just look at my ugly mug the whole time. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm definitely way more handsome, so they want to be, they want to see mine too.
This is a swag, bro. The glasses are a whole swag.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
That's all I got.
See, you just had to fuck my whole shit up. See, I thought I was all right. I have my partner that I work with, Tabby Benet, on with me the day before yesterday, and he's like an art collector, and he lives in New York, and he's like way hipper and cooler than I am. And I'm thinking I got this all right little setup, and he comes on with this dope ass art piece behind him, and I'm like, yo, I had to fuck my whole swag up. But it's
bro, I got a bunk bed behind me, so I'm taking it all the way back to the old school.
So where are you? Where are you now? You're in the mountains somewhere?
I'm in Lake Tahoe, Nevada. Lake Tahoe, as it turns out, is the state line of California and Nevada run right through it. So half the lake is on the Cali side, half the lake is on the Nevada side. I'm on the Nevada side. And we just got kind of stuck up here. We came up in early March to go snowboarding just to kind of try to like get out the city for a minute. Like it was going crazy, but it wasn't all the way crazy. And we, me and my homie Jojo, who is also a manager. He's an artist, talent manager, and a finance guy in LA, but he's from DC. So maybe he'll pop in a little bit. He sleeps on the bottom bunk. I sleep on the top bunk. And
LA shit we got going on right
it's steady. It's a whole cabin full of people, so we got to get in where we fit in. But anyhow, we came to snowboard real quick and just leave the city for a minute, and that was 2 months ago, and here we are.
Oh man!
Hi, Valerie. What's up, Valerie? Come see me in the on the YouTube. Click this link right here if you want to come and check us out.
Yeah, everybody that's on my Instagram, on GOGOTIX Instagram, go to gogotix.co and just click watch on today's episode, and it'll take you right to the episode with Falconry today that we're talking about the future of go-go.
Yo, let me get this right. Hold on, let me get this right. Check this.
Ah, there we go. There we go.
I gotta put the flag up. You know what I'm saying? I gotta put the soldier rags up.
There you go. You gotta represent.
I don't know how this is gonna work, but everybody just has to know that we're legit out here.
There you go. That's what's up.
How's that?
That's funny.
Can you see that? No, you can't see that.
But no, but people that need to know, like, will know what they'll know the colors, and they'll get it.
This is like one of my most prized pieces right here.
I remember seeing a picture of that, and I was like, "Represent, bro, represent." That's what's up, man.
I bought it in BWI Airport when I was sliding home for Christmas like 2 years ago. There we go. That's just gonna have to be. That's our set design for right now.
Hey, that's cool, man. It works for me. It works for me. So, real quick, so if you can give me like the 2 to 3 minute, 2 to 5 minute, I guess, sort of your backstory in music and entertainment and how you ended up doing what you do, and all that. Yeah.
For sure. So, really, I'm on the Baltimore side of things. That's that's the city that I claim. And obviously, being from anywhere in that tri-state area, we were zooming around. But when I came up playing in bands in the Baltimore scene in the early 2000s, playing guitar, writing songs. Certainly got over to the DC side of thing, played Black Cat, played Velvet Lounge, all these sort of spots, and did that until I was about 19. That's kind of how I really cut my teeth, was running through all those clubs before I was even old enough to be in them. And that's where I fell in love with the whole concept of live music and performance, and really like riding for your city and the type of pride that comes with a cultural sort of underpinning like that. However, as the story goes, at 19 or 20, I moved to LA. Not even on a real like manifest destiny, like let me get out of town thing. It was more that I was going to go to school for 1 semester in LA, just on an exchange program. And 2, I had broken up with my girlfriend, and I was really beside myself with grief. I was grief stricken, and I had to get the hell out of DMV. So 20 years old or however old, I moved to LA just for a minute, just to kind of reset. And of course, when I showed up there, my whole perspective changed. The world got bigger, the bar got set higher, and most importantly, I got to, because the bar was always high back in B-more as well, but I got to reinvent myself. And that was a really powerful thing, to pull up as a 20-year-old dude and have to be able to define who I was again, where in the scene in Baltimore, I had kind of got in when I was 15 and people knew who I was. And there's power in having history with folks, but there's also, there's something that I just love about pulling up to a brand new city and like staking a claim. Right.
Yep.
So at 20, I did that. And, I fell in love with it, and I never went back. I go back all the time, but I'd never moved back there. I just started to make my career in LA. The first step towards really wedging myself into the scene there was, I used to run this weekly jam at the House of Blues on Sunset, RIP. And something that all of the soul inspired cats do in cities across the country is have whatever is their version of like the weekly hang. Of course, in DC, we know it's the backyard barbecue where the go-go goes down. In LA, it's like you go on Monday to this venue, on Sunday to this venue, all the cats show up and everybody cuts their teeth on some soul joints. So I was fortunate enough to be able to host that event. I sort of had my relationship with the House of Blues. And
so how did you, I want to just slow you down for a minute.
Sure.
LA is a tough city. And, I came out here before. I lived here before as well in 2002, 2003, prior to me putting the plan together for Mambo Soft. Yep. And it was really, really, really fucking tough. Like I couldn't even, like I came from Vegas where I was the promotions director at a radio station in Vegas, like literally across the street from the Luxor. And I couldn't get a job delivering pizzas into LA. Like it was bad. So how do you go from, I'm this 20-year-old kid from Baltimore that just came out here, to now have this relationship with House of Blues? Because that's not an easy thing to pull off.
Yeah, I am very fortunate that the cards fell the way they did. And the short of it is, I had this dope friend at my school named Red. And she was this little Puerto Rican chick from the Bronx who is all the things that you expect out of Puerto Rican chicks from the Bronx. She's always pushing you to like do. Why you even go do? You know, I would talk about what I wanted to do, and she'd be like, "Why not go do it?" And Red, I remember, told me, "Hey, you know, you should get a job at the Viper Room." I went to the intern office today. Mind you, we're in college and we're young, and so internships was the thing. And she's like, I went to the intern office and there was a page to be at the Viper Room. Like, you're a rock and roll dude, go do it. And it would have never crossed my mind to get an internship. I was very busy with school and I had an ego and I wasn't really trying to be subservient to anybody. But because Red pushed me to do it, I called the number and I went to the Viper Room. That changed my life. They said, okay, you know, and I went in being as I am, super East Coast. I think I was wearing a Nautica, the matching sweatsuit, right? This is like 2005 or 6 or something. I think at the bandana, I was just being me. And I'm sure that is part of why I got the gig. I didn't get the gig because I was clerically at all. I had none of the skill sets to be an intern at a really poppin' club like that. But they said, okay, we're going to let you do it. I'll tell you what, come back tonight. And there's a staff meeting tonight. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I got the gig. Well, I come back that night and it was a acoustic secret performance of Maroon 5 before Maroon 5 was even really a big thing, right?
Wow.
And they had sort of tricked me. They weren't even, there was no staff meeting. They were just like, here, come and see what we're about. We have this band playing. And this, of course, is like the Maroon 5 that was, they remain musically excellent, but the early years was like real choice.
Sunday Morning and all that, right? When they switched from Kara's Flowers to.
You got it. Yeah, you know that story. So anyhow, so I got that gig and I was interning there for a very short time before they realized that I am not a good intern. And the type of skill sets that you need as far as answering phones and working fax machines, that's not what I'm about. But they said probably about a month into this internship, meanwhile, I'm going to school, I'm still finding my way through LA, trying to pay bills and trying to cut my teeth in the scene. And they said, tell you what, you can start bartending here instead. We don't really need you to intern anymore, but we like you and we like your attitude. And so how about you 10 bar instead? That was, of course, that's the level, right? Now, instead of coming in during the day to work the fax machines for free, I get to sling the drinks at night and get paid. Yeah. And that very quickly parlayed into me booking the downstairs room at the Viper. Viper has this little downstairs lounge that can fit all of like 20 people in it. Yep. And they said, tell you what, why don't you start booking acoustic shows here? So me and my college roommate, Andy Grammer, who has gone on to be a super duper star, we start booking shows downstairs. They were inviting our little college friends out who like to drink. It starts cracking. We start taking it upstairs. We start doing the Friday and Saturday nights there. And then that ended up parlaying into the House of Blues relationship. They had seen what we were doing at Viper. House of Blues was a slightly bigger venue, so it just kind of was part of the growth. And so that's the long and short of it. Was I did an internship. I humbled myself to that. I did the best job I could, but mostly I was just being myself and being in love with music and being in love with people. And then through that, I got the bartending gig and then started booking shows. And sooner or later, I was throwing the weekly jam session at House of Blues.
Nice.
Cool. So through that jam session is how a lot of cats in LA do their fellowship and get on tour, right? If you're a young instrumentalist in LA, and not just in LA, this is like this in Cleveland, it's like this in plenty cities.
Black Philly and all that,
Yeah, you gotta just pull up to the weekly thing, bring your instrument and show off. So that's how I got introduced to Tony Royster. And I got introduced to Breezy Lovejoy, who now goes by Anderson .Paak, and how it was just a super hang. And then those cats started bringing me on tour. First big sort of soul-inspired tour I went on was Chrisette Michele. And my homie Brandon Brown, who's a really, really spectacular bass player.
He's got a dope band. I've seen him play a couple times out here.
Yeah. So New Genesis was their band at the time. Now he's got his own project. New Genesis, they're Memphis cats. And they came out as a whole squad, all like 7 of them. Every one of them plays a different instrument. And anywhere they pulled up, it was mayhem, you know.
Mhm.
And but their guitar player Kyle had gotten the gig with Stevie Wonder. This is around the same time. Kyle had gotten a gig with Stevie Wonder. The rest of them were about to go out with Chrisette Michele, and they need a guitar player. Fortunately, they had been pulling up and seeing me weekly, and so they invited me on the Chrisette Michele tour. And they actually didn't really invite me. What happened was they had me come play they pulled like a little backwards move on me where they're like, we want you to learn this.
Playing tricks on you all the time, bro.
Yeah, right. But you gotta just believe, right? It's just faith. So they said, yeah, come play this gig in this little restaurant. And it was for no money, and the music was kind of whatever, and it was just not the gig. But I did it because I wanted to play with them. And at the time, and still to this day, I'm like a yes man. Like I'll play whatever. But when the gig was done and we were settling up, KT, the keyboard player, pulled me aside and goes, hey, listen, this was actually just the audition to see if we wanted to take you on the Chrisette Michele tour, and that starts in 3 days. So if you're down, come on the Chrisette Michele tour. So
I'm sure a lot of that was also to see, would you do this gig without getting paid and do a shitty gig and still smile about it?
It's the whole mood, right? It's not just what your chops are like. It's like, do we like being around this person? Yeah. Is his ego manageable? And, none of the cats who are really doing it expect you to work for free, but they do expect you to roll with the punches. And if one of the punches is, well, today's gig isn't the money-making gig, but hold it down with us, then yeah, that's how that goes. The notion shouldn't be, hey, we're out here just doing this for the love of it, because that's implied.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, we're here doing it for the love of it, but also we all want to like be able to take care of ourselves, and we want a nice standard of living and stuff like that. So whatever.
But that's important. That's a very important lesson for go-go musicians, because there's, and I'm not suggesting in any way that I think musicians shouldn't get paid. I'm a former musician. I want to get paid too, but I'm saying that roll with the punches part is huge. That's club right there. Sometimes shit happens, and you need to roll with the punches if you want to make it to the next level. Any
particular gig is not really the end all be all. Some of them don't go well. Sometimes the crowd didn't show up, or sometimes the promoter makes off with the bread or whatever. There's 101 reasons why it could go right and 101 reasons why it could go wrong. The key, at least my philosophy, is like, I'm trying to be here tomorrow too. So I don't think I ever throw any tantrum about any particular gig, because I am looking forward to the next one every time. Like, not at no point is my whole hopes and dreams riding on one particular session or one particular show or anything like that. So
cool.
But I'm thankful that I did do that gig at a place called Gower Gulch in LA. In fact, it's right across the street from Neuhaus.
Oh, is it really? Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's in the little strip mall thing.
Yeah, weird old school strip mall that looks like it's a Western. Like that looks like a Nevada. Yeah. So there was a little restaurant. You know how grimy that is right there. You know.
That was funny.
That's what the gig was. And then the first gig with Chrisette, and man, I'll never forget it, because we had no rehearsals. They had already rehearsed everything with her and had been her band. Kyle, the guitar player, just had to take off. So I didn't get to rehearse.
Don't he play with the Jacksons now? Was that the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
You got it, bro. Yeah, I mean, these dudes are everywhere. But yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to rehearse with them. They sent me the music, and I just kind of learned it on my own and then pulled up. And the first gig was Essence Festival in the Superdome in New Orleans, bro.
Holy shit.
Yeah, man. And it was so heavy. And maybe that was my first trip to New Orleans, perhaps. But Chrisette did me a total solid. And there's a video of it somewhere. There's like a guitar solo, and I played, but I was kind of just playing the back, right? I was just kind of, I wasn't trying to swing around the stage yet. I had barely even met her, and I was just playing it cool. But of course I am, and anybody from the Essence Festival crowd can see I'm like the rock and roll influence dude on the stage. So they might expect me some fireworks, but I just kind of did my little solo and played it and played the back. And Chrisette came right over and looked me in the face, and on the microphone, she's like, we're going to get back out there again, and we're going to do this guitar solo again. And you're going to get to the front of the stage and do what you're supposed to do. And she was being super sweet about it, but she's like, get up there and be a guitar hero. And so I did that. And there's a video of that somewhere. It's Essence Fest, like 08 or something like that.
Yeah, I gotta find that.
Yeah. And so I did Chrisette for a good long time. And then around that time, around 08 is when I met Miguel. Mm-hmm. And that's a cool story too. And Miguel, so while I was doing the Chrisette tour, I was still managing the House of Blues hang, just from afar, kind of making sure that the cat showed up. It still went on in my absence. There's plenty of musicians in town to make it happen. Right. But because that's the Sunset Strip at that time, and maybe still a little bit, it was like a kind of a community. So all of the venues, if you were good in one venue, you're good in all of them. So the Roxy is another one of my favorite venues. It's right there on the Strip. Yeah. And my very dear friend, Ben Ricciardi, who runs a really cool company called Times 10 right now. Ben is an East Coaster. We were in bands together. We came out to LA together. So he's a confidant of mine. Ben in 08 says, hey, there's this dude, Miguel. He's playing at Roxy. You got to check him out. We think he's the future. He has no band though. He needs a guitar player. So let's go and slide our way in there. And so we went to the Roxy, which we were just on the Strip every single night. So that was like nothing new. And we seen Miguel play, and he was bald headed at the time, and already super swagged out with like the silk scarf and like the fucking parachute pants and just rocking. Right. But the band wasn't really together yet, and none of the records had come out. So you could see that it was like raw talent, but it wasn't the dude we know now who's like so sure of himself. Anyhow, we met in the little VIP spot in the Roxy up there. That's sort of like raised platforms joint. And the next day we were in the studio. Next day we went down to the Fisticuffs studio. Fisticuffs have famously brought us Miguel and Janae Aiko, and Yuna, super badass producers. Shout out to Fisticuffs. And again, there was kind of an audition type thing where Mac, one of the two dudes in Fisticuffs, he's a rad guitar player. And he's like, all right, well, play some shit. You know what I mean? Like, what are you going to do? Right. And so I played some guitar, and we started writing records, and we started putting the band together. First bass player that we got was Kelsey Gonzalez, who now is the leader of the Free Nationals. That's Anderson .Paak's band. Yep. So that type of... Yeah, that's an absolutely incredible outfit, 100%. But yeah, so sometime mid-2008, Miguel and I met at Roxy. Next day, we were working in the Fisticuffs studio. And then shortly thereafter, the shows started getting booked. The album wasn't really out yet. But to the eternal credit of the label and his management, they knew that the way to get his comic going was to just put him on stage, because he is one of the best live performers in the game. And so we were early on taking every single show ever. We were at car shows in Houston. We did the Four Sisters Only joint in DC, the WPGC. We did that every year early on. We were doing, what's it?
What was the PGC one you said you did?
For Sisters Only.
Sisters Only, yeah.
I think they still do it. I think they still have that.
They do. They did.
So that was so cool. And we did this Six Flags tour early on, where we played a different Six Flags throughout the South every single day. We did that with Mike Posner. One of my favorite tours of all time was the Six Flags tour, because we were you play in the middle of the afternoon, because Six Flags is kind of only open during the day. But in between the shows, they'll take you around on the golf carts behind and like let you rock all the roller coasters.
Oh, really?
And bro, in that month, I rode more roller coasters than is healthy at all, because it's not like any regular Six Flags trip where you're there all day and you might ride 5 rides because you don't know, they're so far from one another and you're standing in line and shit. They were like, okay, we got to get you to stage in an hour, so we're gonna ride all 5 roller coasters right now. And they would take us up the back, where we didn't have to stand in line. It was super, exclusive and shit. And so we did that tour, which was totally a blast and way hot as hell in the South in the middle of the daytime in the summertime. So yeah, and then we did that for years and years, and we released a couple albums and people started paying attention. And one thing that I learned so much throughout the tenure with Miguel, and we still are tight and still have plans to work together. But one thing that I learned throughout that was how attainable it is to just keep hitting the streets and keep on rocking shows. And one by one, we were turning people into fans. Miguel is still doing it to this day. Like, people who are not up on esoteric music or whatever, and somehow they find themselves at a Miguel show, are turned to fans for life, right? And so as somebody who holds live music in the highest regard, I loved throughout that time seeing the potency of that, and how we didn't necessarily have big marketing budgets. We weren't necessarily making radio friendly music. We were not really whatever. We just weren't like playing the obvious card. We were kind of playing this really left some sort of like sleeper. It's sleeper shit, you know what I mean? Where you got to really spend some time with it to really know how deep it is. And but Miguel was tenacious, and we just kept on smashing. And now, of course, he gets to reap the rewards, and everybody hopefully knows who we're talking about.
Right. Oh, I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
How did you transition from being like, or was it from the beginning that you were already involved in the creative process of writing and producing with him? Was that from the jump, or did you just start as just the guitar player and then your relationship?
Yeah, early on, I didn't even see production as a goal of mine. It now is the hyper number one goal, but he and the band helped me discover that. As a kid, just playing guitar was the whole thing. Just being in a band was playing the whole thing. We would go in the studio in DC. I remember Omega Studios. I wonder if that's still there. But
I went to school there. That
was my first session ever, was at Omega. So we would go to the studio, but mostly at that time in my life, it was just a means to get back on stage. It was like, okay, yeah, like, let's get this stuff on wax so I can go play guitar again in front of people. When we started touring a lot and we're on a bus and there's just a lot of downtime, everybody in the band had their laptop. And of course, this sort of dovetailed with it being relatively inexpensive to produce your own records, and you didn't have to be in the studio in order to do it. This kind of was all happening at the same time, right? Like in the past 10 years, pretty much. So that really, that's what happened, is just it became available to a dude like me, where I now can be a producer. I don't have to be at the big desk and be in town all the time. I can produce from a cabin in Lake Tahoe. You know what I mean? So that's really, it just became available. But at the same time, being around Miguel, seeing how hyper creative he was, everybody else in the band, Jamie, the bass player, was one of the best in the band of turning down the social element of tour and always being at work. So we would forever be going out afterwards and meeting people. And Jamie was the first one to get back on the bus, put the headphones in, and get to work. And that was very inspiring. And I mentioned to young bands now, I help MD and kind of do some like prep work for young bands that are going on tour. And one thing that I always stress is, like, there's a culture on a tour bus, there's a culture in a band, there's a culture in a van. You don't even have to be in a tour bus. And the culture is either we love this particular fast food joint, and so we always go to this fast food joint. And or the culture is we are always negging one another, and there is like sort of a tit for tat sort of brotherly bullshitting wrestling type thing. Or you see where I'm going with this, or the culture is we eat really well, and who could do the most push-ups, and who made a track today, and you're sort of again trying to keep the bar high. And I'm susceptible to that culture. Like if the culture is bullshit and chasing girls, I will be doing that because I'm down with the gang. You know what I mean? And if the culture is who made the dopest track today and who did their exercise or whatever it is, then I'm going to do that, you know? So in Miguel, it was plenty of the girl chasing and plenty of the record producing and plenty of the staying in shape and just all what I would consider good things. And so, so that, to answer your question, that all was just happening where, you could buy a laptop and you can make killer records now. And now that is the expectation. You can't just play an instrument. You got to play an instrument and also write and create and know how to deliver to the marketplace and be listening to modern music all the time and be up on what's happening. Yes, we're steeped in joints from the past. Yes, we love soul music, but we also are hip to like what is the sound of now. And I learned a lot of that while we all were learning that together. That's
dope. So then what was next? Well, before I go too far, somebody texted in, and they didn't put their name. They said you forgot to mention Uncle Phil. What up?
Yo, that's true. That's how the story begins. I didn't know we were going that far back. So I was very fortunate when I was 10 years old to be gifted a guitar from my Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil is my godfather. I'm named after him. My middle name is Philip. Okay. And like a bolt of lightning, one day he walked into my mom's house with a broke guitar. He plays guitar to this day. He doesn't, or I don't know how he tells the story, but he didn't have really any intention of giving me this guitar. He just happened to have it with him. But I was certain. It was one of those things, right, where like the kid goes, "Is that for me?" And then you can't tell the kid no. You know what I'm saying? Right. You can't break his little heart.
Maybe this was Uncle Phil that texted me then. It might have been.
He's a DC cat. So and a big Chuck Brown fan, a go-go fan. In fact, I'm gonna tell you this right now. It might have been my uncle or it could have been my dad who texted that because my pops told me today. He's like, it's know that
number.
Yeah. What is it? 301?
The 301 number. Yeah.
Well, they're both our 301. They're both the 301 dudes. So the pedigree is real. My uncle, I guess, burnt a CD years ago, or maybe made a cassette tape of all these go-go jams for my dad. So today, when I was talking to my pops, he's like, "Oh, you're gonna talk about go-go? You know, Uncle Phil's a big fan, right? I'm gonna go find that cassette tape." And he went and found the mixtape that he gave him years ago. So,
well, somebody else said, and I'm not sure if this is. I was going to say, I'm not sure if this is for me or for you, but it must be for you. Somebody says, "When are you coming back to Annapolis? We East Coasters miss you." The Rouchlings.
Yeah, that's my people. Yeah. When am I coming back? Man, I mean, who the heck knows, right?
I could go anywhere now, right?
I also talked to my sister today, and she's been posted up at my mom's house for weeks on end. And so that is definitely like getting in my head. I'm like, oh, so if everybody's there, like I could be there real quick. I don't know. I've been here in Lake Tahoe for about going on 2 months, and I got to get back to LA to do some work. There's some like 100% things that are not being handled right now.
Right,
so right. I'm gonna try to slide back this weekend, but I don't know, man. Maybe I'm going to be in LA and be like, cool, I can post up here. Or maybe I'm going to want to get the heck out of town again, in which case next stop is Edgewater, Maryland. So we'll see what happens.
Edgewater? I thought it was Savannah Park for some reason.
Yeah, I'm not from Edgewater, but that's where my folks live.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, they moved to the water and are doing doing that thing.
Nice. That's what's up. All right. So sorry, but interrupted your story again. Okay, so we were wrapping up Miguel, and I think we were on to Vic Mensa now, or if there was anything.
Sure. Yeah. So Miguel, we made all those records, and I saw a lot of the world, and we did a bunch of cool tours. Totally helped me create who I am as my musical identity. And then in becoming a producer a few years ago, I made the hard call, and Miguel helped me make this call to come off the road, open my studio in LA, and really start taking the production thing seriously. Mm-hmm. And again, this is all happening as being able to produce at home is not only available, but expected. It's expected that you'll be able to turn out records more readily. And the instrumentalists on stage are not necessarily the heroes of the show anymore. It's the people who are making these records and making these sounds. And I just wanted a piece of that. Yep. So I left that tour, or, we just kind of amicably decided that I was going to do that a few years back. And I opened my studio where I still work out of to this day, except not right now. And then what happened with Vic? So I was producing records and made a bunch of cool stuff that artists who I'm still working with to this day. The Vic thing happened. I was in Hawaii with my girlfriend at the time, super taking it easy. And I got a call from DJ Alux. DJ Alux is a absolutely insane DJ, violinist, Ableton superstar, business owner, boss lady. And wow. Alux was on one tour with us, on one Miguel tour with us. So we became brothers and sisters on that tour. She was helping to prepare Vic's set for the Jay-Z 444 tour. Uh-huh. And they were like looking for a guitar player because Vic, similarly to Miguel, has all of the soul and all of the inner city chops, but is also a rock star. Yep. So they wanted a guitar on there because that's what it is. Right. So she said, okay, well, I know the dude. And she calls me, and I'll never forget it because I got the call while on vacation. And she's like, yeah, you have to be in LA again, like tomorrow. It's always that. It's always like, yeah, we're doing it tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
And so that wasn't convenient, but I knew that I wanted to go on this tour, and I was a big fan of Vic. And I had been maybe about 2 years off tour doing the production thing, and I kind of was just like itching to go back on the road, Usually when I tell people that I came off the road to open my studio, the notion is, yeah, you got tired of that road life, huh? And I always have to make the point that I never once got tired of the road life. I still love it. I'm living out of a suitcase right now, having the time of my life. And I made the choice not out of exhaustion, but just out of interest in growing the career and making these records. So when I got the call to go back on the road, I was like, yeah, I'll do that. And I sort of pushed the date back. I was like, can we do it on Sunday? I can shave maybe one day off of this vacation, but I'm going to really be in the doghouse if I literally leave tonight.
Right.
And so I totally was a bastard, and I was trying to figure out how to break it to my then girlfriend about hey, by the way, I'm leaving town early. Fortunately, she was not at all surprised that something was going to come up, and she was very sweet about letting me it was not like she wanted to go back to LA. She wanted to live in Hawaii, still does probably. She's like, yeah, well, shit, maybe you go and maybe I stay here for the rest of my life. How about that? Right. But so I did that. We changed the flights and we came home, and I met Vic, and same thing, man. We had about 3 days we rehearsed. This time we had some time to rehearse, and we left for the Jay-Z 444 tour. Obviously life-changing, totally amazing watching Jay do his thing.
Was Wale on that one too, or no?
No, that was just Vic and Jay. Although Jay took the tour to Europe, and we didn't go to Europe. He may have taken Wale there,
gotcha.
But it was just us on that bill. So that was a lot to live up to, for sure. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the tours that was in the round where the stage is in the middle and there's people on all sides, which is 10 times more difficult to me.
Yeah.
It's just so much harder to try to really have a connection. You just, people are staring at the back of your head sometimes, and it's from a crowd perspective, it looks cool. It's like a Roman Colosseum type of thing, but it does not, to me, lend itself to like real connection with the crowd. It's a little more of like a spectacle, you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So it was tough, but it was great. And then we were making records the whole time. I mean, on Vic's bus, we had the studio bus where half of the bus is a studio. And we were making even more records on there than we were making on the Miguel bus. And I would have thought there was no such thing. Miguel is such a hard worker. I wouldn't have even thought you could do more work. But Vic is just a studio. Here's the difference. Miguel is either as at home on the stage as he is in the studio, or more at home on stage than he is in the studio, I would argue. Vic prefers the studio. So we were playing shows and rocking shows, but then he couldn't wait to get back to the bus and make a new record. And so that turned into the 93 Punx thing. It turned into me helping produce the last couple projects. And now that's just what you do on tour. You just rock shows and then go back on the bus and make records. It's just kind of how everybody's doing it, I think.
Right.
So and then that pretty much brings us up to today, more or less. I might have skipped a few years there.
Got you. Well, real quick, tell us about the TV show.
Oh yeah, so Songland is called. It's on Mondays at 10 o'clock on NBC, no matter where you're at, 10 o'clock East Coast, 10 o'clock West Coast. And it is, wow. It's been so, did you see it yet?
I saw little clips on yours.
There's only 3. Yeah.
We don't
right. There's only been 3 episodes of this season, but man, it is so cool, bro. Can
you stream it anywhere, or is it only on,
you can watch like clips on YouTube afterwards. And matter of fact, if you go on NBC's site, you can, on NBC.com, you can just watch episodes.
Okay.
So you don't even have to watch it live, really. Okay. So it's up there, but I highly recommend it. It's totally got one foot in the spirit of like musical competition shows, The Voice and X Factor and stuff like that, where it's real people and they're performing in real time and like the stakes are high. But it is not at all a diva show. There is zero phoned in drama. There is no Simon Cowell character whose job is to just make people uncomfortable. It's just love, man. It's like all love and all creation all the time. And basically what we do is, instead of having vocalists compete for who's the best vocalist, we have songwriters come on who are also talented vocalists, but really what they're showcasing is their original music. And every episode there is a special guest superstar artist whom we are pitching the songs to. I'm in the band, so I help to perform the music. We're pitching these 4 songs to the star artist, and then the artist is going, this is a breakup song, but I just got married. So can we flip it? And can we turn this into a love song? Because I love the melody and I love the vibe, but what can we change this word or that word? And then we sort of do that. Or it'll be a male songwriter and he might be pitching to her. Her was the artist who we did last Monday. And so the male songwriter has a song that's kind of from a male perspective, and her will say, yes, that's the sentiment. I want to sing a song about this, but can we tweak it and make it for a female? And now maybe we raise it up a couple keys because it's for a female voice, and the band is there sort of reacting in real time.
In real time to do those changes. That's dope.
For sure. And then at the end of every episode, one of those songs has been punched up and turned into a smash hit. And the artist records that song and releases that song as their new single.
Oh, wow. So it really is like in real time. They really release it as a single. That's dope.
Well, we filmed it a few months ago. And then, so the artist, once they've chosen the record that wins, then they have about a month while the show is being edited. So fortunately, we wrapped taping in February, because otherwise nothing would happen. The name of the show is Songland. Salee William, my boy. And it's on 10 p.m. on NBC. So it is. So in that month between when we wrapped and they're editing it together, right? Because this is the other thing about the show is there's hours and days worth of incredible musicality happening, and then we button it down into an hour-long show, right? Which this is what TV and movies are. But we are like, we're trying ideas, and then that idea doesn't work, and then we're going back to the beginning, and we're just kind of pulling our hair out. The three producers on the show, Ryan Tedder, Shane McAnally, Esther Dean, are like super duper stars. They don't waste any time getting to I mean they pedigree's crazy. They don't waste any time getting to really, really great ideas, but there's a lot of ideas floating around. And then in that month or two between us wrapping the show and it now being out, they edit all those great ideas down into like, you know, a watchable episode, and the artist is recording their version of the song so that when the joint drops, the song drops as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of talent in one room. It's like an overwhelming amount of talent in one room.
That's so dope. I'm like, as soon as we get off, because Black Disney, who's on here, who said it's his daughter's favorite show. He also has a website called Learning with Gogo, which you know,
Black Disney
kids thing for kind of a kids thing for learning how to do go-go. But he said it's on Hulu too, so we do have Hulu. So I'm going to check that out. That's dope. So the reason I wanted to sort of like flesh that out before we kind of get into the go-go thing is because I think this is like a whole lot of what you said. Hunter Reese, was that your buddy?
My boy.
He said you're the fucking man, bro.
Yeah, dude. Hunter's a killer artist who is dropping music every week. Really inspires me with how readily he sets music free, and was one of the first young dudes to see me work in the studio and go, I want to come out and work with you. And was one of the first dudes to get on a plane when I had built my studio a couple years ago and said, I'm going to get on a plane and come do some work. And so big shout out Hunter Reese, shout out New Jersey by way of Denver.
Nice. Was that the guy that I met with when we ran into each other at the Bob Lefsetz Jason Flom thing?
Yes, bro. Yes, you did me.
I remember that.
That we even went to that show.
Yeah.
That's the memory.
I remember when I pulled it up and saw his face, I was like, he looks kind of familiar. I remember him.
Oh, man, that was crazy, right? That show was so crazy.
Yeah, it was dope. I mean, that's a lot of, Bob Lefsetz. I'm a big Lefsetz fan and listen to his podcast and all that. And a lot of that's an inspiration for what I'm doing now to try to, flip some knowledge out there to the go-go community if we can. So I know that you are not like, you came up mainly in the Baltimore scene and you're not like a go-go dude, but clearly anybody that grows up in the DMV has, like you said, your uncle was into it and, your dad and, kind of, it permeates through everything in our area and especially anyone involved with music. So a few things that in your story kind of stuck out to me. And well, let me go actually real quick to what you said. So I asked a question in the onboarding that says, in one sentence, what do you think can move go-go to the international stage? And your response was a hit song, unfortunately, probably a shift in attitude about who owns it, even though we're proud as hell. What can you explain that? What did you mean by that?
Man, it's hard to separate the exclusivity, what's the word? Like when a neighborhood is responsible for something, sometimes we want to keep it in the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? It's like when some outsiders get a whiff of it, it's like, no, this belongs to us. And I don't even think that there's anything inherently wrong with that. Like claiming where you're from and claiming what you've created is part of giving it value. Is that like, yes, we're proud of this, right? However, it totally could also limit the reach. And go-go is not at all the only art form that suffers from this. I mean, jazz is an art form that everybody knows what it means, but the people who create jazz are super exclusive about it. And if you don't do it the right way or know the right tune or whatever, it's like you get kicked to the curb so quickly. And the balance is when you have a standard, the art form can be spectacular. When it's like, listen, you got to meet our standard or we're not letting you in the party.
Yep.
That is how you make great art. But it's also how you keep that great art from hitting people who are not so specific about what they're listening to. I mean, when you talk about how do we give it to the masses by definition are not the people who care so much.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That like they fall in love. I'm not trying to downplay them, but the masses are not the specialists. We are the specialists. We're the ones who like can't sleep over this type of thing. Yep. So in order to bring anything to the masses, there is you have to want to let them have it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to want to be like, you can come along. I get that you don't care about this as much as I do, and you're still welcome.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's hard to do. I'm not even saying that that's easy to do. I mean, I, to this day, have a chip on my shoulder about what constitutes good music and not good music. And people have to meet that bar. And when new hip hop comes out, I'm like, did this person do his homework? And I don't know if you know, like, I'm totally like that too. But just inherently, if you're trying to open up the door and let more people in, not every one of those people is going to have the same standard as you do. And you have to just like be okay with that. It's more like an emotional thing. You know what I mean? Like, are we okay as cats from the DMV if there's music that sounds like go-go coming out of New York? Are we mad about that? Mm-hmm. Historically, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of we're like, that's our shit. Leave it alone.
Right. Well, my argument to that, which you're 100% right, and I would feel the same way. Like if I hear some producer from New York or someone be like, man, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's like, listen, we got the ball. If we don't pick that motherfucker up and run with it, then shut the fuck up. That's how I feel about it. Somebody, this may be somebody that you know, Sienna Camaras.
Shawnee Cameras.
Shawnee Cameras.
You gotta. I'm introducing you to Shawnee Cameras when I come back to LA because Shawnee is a DMV native. I mean, one of the proudest cats who is obviously per his name is a videographer and a documentarian. Okay. Did this documentary called Metrospective on the DC area and on go-go and hip-hop and punk rock that came up in that scene. But anyway, what do you say? The correlation between Baltimore club music, both hood, region respected, have gotten some mass appeal, but still underserved.
Yep.
Just bold truth.
Well, the flip side of that is too, Baltimore club is a very specific sound, but it also is incorporated into the larger sort of EDM, movement in different subgenres of the EDM stuff that happens. And then obviously with go-go, there's a spark here or there. You have your A. Marie's or your Jill Scotts or whatever, or different people that do that. Oh, shout out to Tabby Benet. Cool, I got him on next week. That's my boy. That's my client. Right. I think. I mean, you really hit the nail on the head. It's tough because people are so precious about it. But at the same time, if you don't do anything other than just play in DC, then you can't be mad if somebody else takes it. You know what I mean? And so my objective has always been, although I go in fits and starts and I have waves because, it's not a terribly lucrative thing to do and I have to keep the lights on.
For sure.
It has always been to be someone that, I played in go-go bands for 20 years and I'm the co-writer and producer and manager and guitar player on the last 2 go-go songs to hit the Billboard chart. So I have a vested interest in this. But I want to be the one to do it. You know what I mean? But it's really, really hard. We talked about it a couple of years ago and had sort of a false start or whatever. But one of the things that that in your story that really stood out to me, which I knew you were going to say, is how much guys like Miguel, how much guys like Vic Mensa, and I'm sure Andy Grammer too, how much music they create, and that's what's not happening in go-go. There's not enough music being created,
like original joints.
Yeah, exactly. But even and there's all. I mean, that was my thing. Mambo Sauce was the band that I created, and Mambo Sauce was at least in like 20 years or so, the first all original go-go band. Like, we did not ever play a cover song ever. Like, that was the whole point of it. I was trying to basically do for go-go what No Doubt did for ska music. Where they took the elements of it and then built out the pop stuff around it. Sally is asking, what's the name of that documentary?
Oh, Shawnee's documentary. It's called Metrospective, and I'll look it up right now just to make sure that I know where to find it. Hold on, Metrospective.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too.
It's so lit, bro. And he followed the city around for years, creating this thing. Yo, Shawnee, if you're watching, just tell us where to find the few episodes of that.
Yeah, or you can just type it in the comments, and I can put it up on the screen. So, well, the other thing I was going to say is that there's always an argument within the go-go community about covers versus originals. And when I was building Mambo Sauce, I was obviously on the original team, and I'm still on the original team. However, I also think, have you ever heard of Crazy Pockets?
No.
It's the guy that started Pomplamoose, it has a group Pomplamoose.
Actually, I have heard what you're talking about. They're kind of on their it's like super shreddy, right? And they have a bunch of YouTube videos and stuff.
Yeah, and they do like funk versions of I've
seen it.
Like AC/DC songs and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
And Snarky Puppy, it's like in that world, right?
Yeah, because they record in the studio and they do all that.
Yep, I've seen it.
Yeah. Oh, Shawnee said it didn't come out. I guess.
Well, come on, Sean. What's up?
Yeah, we want to see.
He moved to LA and started making an LA documentary.
Yeah,
don't forget where you came from.
DC, yeah. Now we got a link for real. He said it's a long story. He'll tell us at another time though. But yeah, I definitely want to meet him. So I think that there's an argument that could be made that, okay, you want to do covers? Cool. Just do them better. And that's been the problem. And do them like for real. Do it something like that. And it's something I'm going to have a conversation with other people. But back to the original side, which is where the real, I think really where the change is going to happen, if it's ever going to happen.
Look, it's tough because go-go, it's all like, what's the spirit of the music? And it's a party. It's meant to be the backdrop for the community coming together. And at least as I remember it, right? I was just listening to it on the radio station late at night on 92Q when I was like 10, right? So that I'm for sure like imbued in my musicality, but I was never invited to the parties until much later. But
you didn't know me. I would have brought you out.
Right. But it was my Uncle Phil should have brought me is what should have happened. But there was not like for a Miguel, like an R&B sort of sex god type thing where it's like, everybody look at me because this is the type of experience that we're having right now is like a focused experience versus party music where the type of experience that we're having is like outward. And the band is here to kind of punctuate all the different conversations that are happening. And we're back here every single week. And so we got to come up with new joints every single week. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to learn some cover songs because the expectation is not that I'm going to come to town and play one show and then I'll be back in 5 months, which is how it works if you're in an R&B outfit touring the country. And in go-go, it's like, yeah, we're pulling up every single week. And so learning covers and then putting a go-go spin on it is one way to respect your audience and just give them something fresh every week. So the rules are a little bit different, but to your point, when a go-go, when whatever, Chuck or whoever puts out an original joint and then the community cottons onto that, that becomes the most celebrated moment. over top of all the covers. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So it just takes some bravery to make those records, know that what the decisions you're making are not crowd pleasing decisions. You don't get to pull up this Sunday and play a joint that everybody knows and everybody can sing along to. And that's intoxicating as a live band to want to be like, you know what? We can either like play this song for them 10 times across the span of 10 weeks. And then by week 11, maybe they'll know it. Or we can do the single ladies go-go version right now and they're going to know it. And it, you know, you want to just show people a good time. So there's no shame in doing that, in bringing that party.
Right.
But the real brave move, and the move which withstands the test of time, of course, is to do, you know, the original joint and bring the community with you, and slowly but surely it becomes part of the lexicon. And yeah, that you're right that's the move. It's the harder move, but it's the one that's the long-term move.
Yeah, well, not only is the allure of the instant gratification of playing a cover song and the response to it intoxicating, but also the fact that I work for the government, but 3-4 nights a week, you know, I can make $200, and you know what I'm saying, and I don't have to like be in
the money's there.
Yeah, and so it's because a fairly decent sized go-go band can, you know, those guys make around the same amount as your starting out touring guys. You know what I mean? But there's a ceiling, and my issue comes with if you want to do that and have it as a hobby and be a weekend warrior, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. But then don't complain that you're not Drake. That's my only thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Two totally different strategies. So, so I want to, because part of the reason I started this series is because I know, you know, obviously I know people like yourself that are performing, and you know, like yesterday or 2 days ago, I interviewed the head of digital strategy for TuneCore's new record label. So I know people that are, and I got my buddy who's senior vice.
Shout out TuneCore, by the way.
Yeah,
making sure that I can pay my rent in these hard times.
Indeed. Me too. I got the senior vice president of rhythmic promotion for Atlantic Records coming up in a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to connect these dots between, you know, the go-go scene and the larger music scene, because there's a sort of a sheen on, you know, the greater music industry that, like, I think the assumption from some go-go people is that, like, you know, you move to LA or you go on to a tour, you made it. You're like rich. You're a millionaire. You know what I mean? Mm. And it's really not like that. And it's really a shitload of work. And what I'm trying to do is sort of like inject like a dose of reality into the community in the hopes that I can shake out some people that are like, you know what, I'm cool with that. Like and that was what I did when I built Mambo Sauce. I was like, listen, you need to understand that just the example you just gave, we're going to play these songs 10 times and nobody's going to get it until the 11th time. So just be prepared for people to just stand there and look at you instead of dancing like you're used to from the other bands that you played in. And also there's if it works out the way that I want to, we're going to be all crammed in a van eating ramen noodles here pretty soon. So just understand that that's coming. You know what I mean? And so there just really is a whole lot of disinformation throughout the go-go community about how those things really work. So I really wanted to bring you in, especially being a songwriter and a producer, because if the thing that we're missing, and this is my opinion, and I think I'm right, the thing that we're missing is songs and go-go. Like that beat will make anybody dance anywhere. You can do that. It's the ultimate cheat code. You're
so right, bro. You're dead right.
Dude, it is. Like there's no audience that you cannot play a go-go beat in front of that will not be like, what the fuck is that? That's the best shit I've ever heard.
You're dead right.
If you can't get to the stage to play that beat because you don't have a song to precede you to give you some type of access to that audience, then you're dead in the water and you're still just playing in DC for the same 200 people that come see you every week. And I want to see a go-go band headline Coachella.
You know what it also, that's right. I like that sentiment. And so just keep manifesting that, because you're dead right. I want to see that too. What you made me think of to abridge my answer, which is a hit song and then a shift in attitude towards whether or not we're letting people in or we're keeping people out. The third thing is there is a personality difference between folks who are writing records and that is their experience with music, and folks who are reinterpreting music that they love through their instrument. And there's not one is better than the other. But there are, for instance, in LA, a bunch of my peers who go on tours with whatever, this artist, that artist, a lot of those dudes are ripping instrumentalists or background singers. But not on fire about making their own statement. Not on fire. They don't feel as inspired about writing a song as they do about, oh, you got a song? Cool, give me that song, because what I like to do is I like to interpret that through my instrument. And like, I don't necessarily want to come up with the raw material. I'd rather you give me the artist, give me the raw material, or the producer, and I'll do it. So that's just, it takes all types to make a show go. So to add to that, what we need in go-go is the couple players, the couple personalities for whom writing and telling their story is their fire. And go-go is a type of art form where there's really high musicality, right? So it stands to reason that a lot of dudes and chicks who are in that scene have spent all their time with their facility, not their time writing. You know what I mean? Where like a cat like Miguel and Vic, they both can play guitar, but not well, because they're spending their time writing their ideas down and like pouring their heart out. One is not better than the other. I'm a better guitar player than them, but they are better at getting to the heart of their emotions. Like they can, in a snap, tell the truth. And it takes me a little bit longer to tell the truth. And so what we also need, what you just said, you want to shake it up and see who are the folks that you need, the type of personalities who want to lead the band and who are not satisfied by playing other people's music. They're only satisfied by telling their truth. Again, I don't think one is better than the other. It takes all those people on the team in order to make it happen. But we need like the figurehead, you know?
Well, here's my thought, because this is something that I've asked a couple of other, more of the go-go guys in the past interviews is, do you actually need a band? Like, can there be an artist? And I mean, I don't mean necessarily to perform live, but I mean to be the act. Like for go-go, does go-go need to, like, does a go-go artist need to be a band, or can it just be an artist with songs, and then when they perform, they hire a band like Miguel or Vic Mensa?
I would argue that with the current landscape of the music industry and how people consume their art, simplifying it to a singular person is often a quickest way for casual listeners to be able to wrap their head around the thing. It's not necessarily my thing. I love the band dynamic. Literally, Malachi, there's nothing I like better than the crew all coming together and like bleeding and sweating and crying through it together. That is what I'm in it for. But I am not the target market, right? As far as how a casual listener can be like, oh, who is that? Tell me about it. If there is a singular face and a singular voice with a singular story, that has been proven to be easier for people to jump on board. So I'm not saying by any means that that's the only way for it to happen, but all the market testing will tell you that the more that you can hone in, the more that you can make the story. Can I tell you the story about this band or this actor, this artist in a sentence? Like, do you know what it is defined to like the head of attack? We're talking about being ever more honing in what the story is. And when there's 5 different personalities, there's 7 different personalities, however many damn people you want to fit into a band, it's just a little bit harder to make that story. You can. Led Zeppelin has 4 distinct personalities, but you still can define what Led Zeppelin is. So this is my answer to you. It could be a band if that band can all agree upon a kick-ass aesthetic and a really cool story. And that way I don't, as a casual listener, have to be like, you know, wait, which one am I? You know, or the Beatles are the same way. The Beatles are super different from one another once you really start digging in. But from a zoomed out perspective, it's like, yeah, these 4 dudes, yeah, they probably all sleep in the same bed. They probably all eat the same, you know what I'm saying? Like they do everything in unison. And it's just a cool way to, or the most effective way, quickest way to introduce yourself to people on a mass scale, I think.
Well, but also we're saying, you know, the 2 examples that you brought up and learning with Go-Go Black Disney also brought up the Roots. But you're also talking about bands that made their bones many, many years ago. Like there aren't any real, at least that I'm aware of, like bands that are coming out right now that are like full on bands that are successfully doing that. You know,
the landscape has changed, and I'll give you that. Although I do try to catch myself when I'm talking about, well, that's how it used to be, and now it's all different. Because now that I've lived through a couple cycles of the industry, and now that I'm in my 30s, I'm just starting to see that like it is just cycles. Like nothing is altogether too new. So I think that you're right that the machine prefers there to be one person that they can, because of what I'm saying is because it's like it's easier. It's like having 1 girlfriend or 10 girlfriends. Like, what's easier? You know what I'm saying? Can I figure this one person out? You know what I mean? Can I fall in love with this one person? So there is that. But the Roots, yeah, it might be that they came out in an era where we allowed that. I would argue it was
also an anomaly then.
Yeah, right. That's what I say. Like that wasn't a thing that you really had seen before. And, you know, I think they did a pretty good job of being really homogenous. You know, where like the Roots were a thing to me. Now it is Black Thought versus Questlove versus Khalil versus, Sean J kind of produced some of it or whatever that sort of thing is. And now I know that there's multiple, and Captain Kirk, shout out. But at the time that I was getting involved with them, it seemed like a singular thing. And that's my point. Is as long it can be as many people as you want. It's like a sports team. It's like when you know, they all are wearing the same goddamn thing and they're all chanting the same thing. And so I think it's just a matter of stripping away all of the different things that are extraneous and like and bands who are successful, I think pretty much all have that in common, that they have all agreed upon like, this is our true north and we're all going for that. And I think that there's a way to do that, but it's an interesting point that you make. And one artist could come out, make some go-go joints, call themselves whatever their name is, be a cult of personality, have a really cool band around them. And I think that would work too. I wouldn't think that that would be a lesser version of the art form, as long as that artist was being honest and making great music and bringing their band with them and bringing the crew. You know, I think that would still be totally an achievement. Well,
so to take that one step further, like I say this a lot because I feel like a lot of Go-Go's issues, if you want to call them that, are fueled by ego. It's there's a sort of hyper-inflated sense of we've made it because we can headline Echo Stage and 4,000 people will come. But if you were to go play in Cleveland, there would be 10 people there. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? But go-go bands don't frequently go to Cleveland. So they don't really, it doesn't even occur to them that that's a thing. Mm-hmm. So that translates into the creative process too, which there's really a lack of creative process in go-go. But when it does happen, that translates into that as well. And you've got 6 vocalists and everybody has to have their verse on the song.
Yeah.
15 minutes long. And it, you know what I'm saying? So, and then generally speaking, it's not that good. So my thing that I say all the time is Whitney Houston never wrote a song in her life. but she's still Whitney Houston. You know what I mean? So
or Elvis.
Right, exactly. So my thing is, what would it look like to have this go-go artist who maybe doesn't necessarily write their own songs, and when they play with a band? What I mean, does that seems like I'm constantly trying to figure out what are the roadblocks that are holding go-go back.
I don't think it's going to be that yet, where you have the whole sort of machine around an artist like an Elvis or a Whitney, just because I think that is once the art form is already a household name, right? Like when Whitney Houston came up, nobody had to figure out what they were watching. Like, right. I know what this is. And then, so it was already kind of being marketed for mass appeal, and it was already in everybody's household, and they just did it really, really, really well. I tend to think that the way that go-go is going to be accepted by a larger audience outside of the DC metro area will be because there is a figurehead who people fall in love with, who is telling their own story, who is, you just can't take your eyes off that person. And I think it's going to be that, because I think that's how all cultural shifts happen, is by an artist or a group of artists who are saying some truths that nobody's ever heard before, that people have been scared to say before, people hadn't considered before. I think that's how it always happens. Right. So as it relates to go-go making this critical mass shift outside DC, I think it's going to be people who do it. I think it's going to be artists who do it. And then maybe, to your point, once people know what that is, then I'm going to want to bring them out to LA, and we're going to want to put them in the studio with kick-ass songwriters and do that, not because that is a watering down of it, but because I like people and I like ideas from all over, and I love the collaborative spirit of it. So I think it gets to the place you're talking about, but I bet the catalyst will be somebody who's a writer and a soothsayer and somebody who you just can't ignore.
I have yet to really identify that person.
Yeah. They're tough, man. It's tough, and it's tough. Yeah. It's tough in a city like DC. One, we're not living there anymore, so there's that. But it's like it's just that city's been through some things, and it's not so obvious that people don't necessarily have the means to just pursue their art all the time. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole lot of just real life happening. And people being moved away from their hometowns because of all the gentrification and stuff like that. Which Shawnee and I had a long conversation. Shawnee Cameras, he was telling me about it yesterday. He's like, make sure you bring up this. I literally have notes from Shawnee about all of the go-go things he wants me to make sure that I bring up. But so, it's tough to figure out who that person is. But I think you're doing the right thing by giving it a voice. And I think you're doing the right thing by just paying attention. And, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to happen. But I believe in it.
That's dope. So just from a sort of brass tacks, like say that person is watching right now, right? That person that we're talking about that's watching now, or they're watching the replay. From a brass tacks perspective, how many, and this is obviously varies, but roughly how many on the projects that you've worked on, when you're working with a Miguel or a Vic or whoever, how many songs are, either submitted by other people or written by the artist or you or whoever, then actually recorded, and then actually, you know what I mean? Is it like 50 songs are for this project, and then this is what I talked to Eric, that we hung out with at the Wale show, and he's like, Wale records like 40 songs for every record that ends up getting down to about 10. And I think the thing in go-go is, all right, we got like 3 songs. When we're going to go in the studio, we're going to play through them 2 times. We're going to cut that shit, and then we're going to put those 3 songs out, as opposed to like really, and a lot of that is a logistical and a financial thing, because it's expensive to record a 15-piece band. But now there are some young producers. I just got some stuff yesterday in the all right, Bootsy Vegas. Bootsy Vegas said he's the dude. He's watching.
That's it.
That's Sally. That's Sally Williams from earlier. Sally's got
you gotta claim it. That's step one.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Sally actually has a band with Raheem Devon called Raheem Devon and the Crank Crusaders, and Sally has had some very good mentorship from working with Earth, Wind, and Fire for a long time, and Donnie Simpson. So yeah, I interviewed him a couple of weeks ago, but when I was doing it on Instagram, and I haven't had a chance to download those ones to YouTube. This is a much more easier process. So Sally is watching. So Sally sent me 8 songs the other night. He said he's got 30 so far. So that's good. Yeah. So my question is that enough? Like what's the because I think there's a real big misconception about how much work goes into putting a project together.
Yeah. Well, you're right that and Wale's means of making an album echoes Miguel's and Vic's. We write way more records than go on the album. There's not a number. There's not, and Andy Grammer too has 50 songs per every album that you hear. There's not a magic number, but they get better every time.
Yep.
And so if you stop at 3, then you stopped at 3 because song 10 is just better, and maybe not necessarily better musically, but closer to the truth and closer to it's just like anything. You just got to do the reps, So yep. I have on my hard drive that no one will ever hear 1,000 Miguel songs.
Wow, 1,000 Miguel songs.
And joints, man.
And over what time span, like what period of time were those songs recorded?
04 to now.
So 16 years.
01 maybe. I mean, I have to even look. They're not on this laptops. They're on a hard drive. But there's it's a shame how many ill songs are on there that aren't going to make the cut. But it's just part of the process. It's just like when I went on a run today, and I didn't outrun anything. For what? You know what I mean? Like nobody was chasing me. I didn't get anywhere. But that's what it requires, so that when I am outrunning the zombies or the police or whatever it is, like I'm fast now. So
it's a 10,000 hours thing too. Like as you get better, as you do more, you get better at it. Yeah.
So that's really the thing. It's not that it has to be any particular number, but it's like this. Miguel and Vic's the same way. We recorded way more joints than are going to come out. And fortunately now through the business I'm doing in my studio, I'm able to repurpose some of those songs to movies and stuff like that. And they didn't come out on the album, but now we can put them in soundtracks and things like that. So that we'll find a home for these. With Miguel old joints, he's grown so much as an artist that those joints will probably come out in like the career retrospective. Like one day when we are 70 years old, then you're going to get to hear it. And you just have to wait until then. But for artists, for your boy, who's the guy, he's going to write 50 songs because he can't not write 50 songs.
Right.
That's the thing. It's because he sees something in his days like that's going to be a song. And I have something to say, and I have a show, and I don't want to play the same shit anymore. I want to play something new because that was my truth last week, and now this is my new truth. And that's just a whole different attitude towards the creation of art. Whether or not you're like, yeah, I got a thing, and like now I got it, and so now the work is done. So pay me. Well, bruh, that's not really how artists act. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's a really important point, and it sort of segues into my next question that you have unique insight into, because you are not just you're not just playing guitar for these artists. You have your own project as well, and that's another thing that I see because and they're not an example of it, but like I booked for RC and the Grits, who's Erykah Badu's band, and RC is Snoop Dogg and Erica's music director. And I was worried. I did not really want to book them at first. I didn't want to sign them because I get very nervous when there are top flight musicians who play with these artists because they have an unrealistic expectation of how things are supposed to work when it's your own project. So how is that manifested for you? Like, how are you able to stay humble about the fact that you're working on your own project and it's maybe not to the level of a Miguel?
It's different. It's different. Yeah, it's different. Well, two things to that. One, it has to be its own reward. I feel differently about singing my songs than I do about playing Vic's songs. So when I'm singing my songs with my acoustic guitar in front of one woman, that can hit me on all the different levels because it's my truth. And you know what I mean? So I don't necessarily need it, although we're certainly working towards it to get to the same level of notoriety as Miguel and Vic stuff. But it just is its own reward, right? You know what I'm saying? So there's that. But also in tandem with that is I never fell out of love with the grind of playing. In fact, I still prefer playing the little rock club, pulling up in the van with the band and like doing it and having to get off stage and go back to the merch booth and sell my own merch. I still prefer that to playing in the arena where we never even get within 100 yards of the fan base and somebody else is handling the merch and I don't get to sign anything. I don't have like any exchange with that. So that's not for everybody. I think that not everybody's like a social animal like I am, and not everybody has such. I've really like galvanized my memories of growing up in the scene and playing those shows, and they feel like it's a good feeling to me. A lot of cats, it feels like that's when it wasn't working. And so that, and so they don't want to go back to that feeling. And I don't know how to fix that for them except through meditation and, therapy. I don't know. But to me, I still have like a romance around the grind. So I don't really struggle with it because when my band pulls up to the local show and plays in front of what is only a few hundred people or a few dozen people or whatever it is, it's still my happy spot.
Right.
So I'm fortunate for that I never had that stolen from me. There is things that can happen where you are in your young band and you guys break up or the manager makes off with the money and like the whole thing just becomes a negative emotion. Certainly I have really good friends for whom that is their memory of like figuring it out. And now they want to be in a place where it's all managed for them and they're only around professionals and they only have to consider the work of the work they're doing. They don't necessarily have to settle up with the venue and do all that other stuff. I don't think that they're wrong. I think that that's totally one side of the industry, but you're right to be, sort of reticent about signing those people because man, like once they've been on tour with Badu, are they going to be down to like the other side of the coin? And I don't know. I think that's just another personality thing. I'm into it. But
they are. They've been, let me make sure I make that clear. They've been amazing to work with. They have never given me a problem at all. They're down and willing to go and do whatever they want. And that's the thing that's crazy to me is that the people like you and the people like RC that, have, a legitimate claim to have, I don't want to say an ego, but at least, some confidence in what you're doing are far more humble and far more willing to do things and, meet me at the show to go talk to Eric about the Wale shit and come on and do this for nothing than some of the people in GoGo that aren't even really doing anything. You know what I mean? It's just, that's, I mean, I don't want to like harp on. I'm trying not to like be negative about the situation, but I'm passionate about it, and I really
you care. Who gives a shit? Y'all?
I really do. I really do because I just know, like, it's just even just a little bit. Like with Mambo Sauce, I always use the analogy that I was trying to go on a cross country trip, and we didn't even pull out of the parking lot yet. But the band, some of the band, not all of the band members, some of the band members like thought they were already Jay-Z because they could
already there
for free. And I'm like, dude, you don't even have, like, we're not even close to what I'm trying to do yet. And you're already like barking, like, yo, where's my money at? Like, what's going, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, yo,
it's tough, man.
Yeah.
That's a personality thing. That's a morality thing and spiritual thing. And I don't know how you save those people from themselves. Again, that is not unique to the DC go-go scene. That there are musicians who like are feeling themselves and are delusional. But you know, I think that's part of what is so magical about bands who do withstand the test of time, and why I love the band dynamic is how damn near impossible it is to overcome all the different needs and dreams and expectations of multiple people in the mix. And then when bands are able to like do it for a year, 2 years, 10 years, 25 years is a real achievement, man. And that's speaking to what you're talking about, that it's really hard to have everybody be in it. It requires empathy, man. You have to like care about the crowd, and you got to care about the other members of your band that, hey, you know, I may feel like I've arrived, but I'm going to keep on showing up because I'm going to do it for them. You know what I'm saying? And if you're not doing it for every other member in your band, you don't want that motherfucker in your band anyway, bro. You don't. They're gone. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I said that a couple times, many times about my boys in my Baltimore band. I don't want to downplay them at all either. They help me be who I am. But my boys in my Baltimore band, when I moved out to LA, we had just released that record and we were still together because, again, I was only going to be there for a short time and I was going to come back. When I started making moves in LA and I was now booking shows and now it was working, and I was calling them and saying, come out here. We're going to headline at the Viper Room or House of Blues, whatever, come do it. And as it turns out, that was not their dream. Their dream was not to do the most for the least, and their dream was not to leave the people that they loved behind to come do this thing. I
do the most for the least, because I think that's important.
I mean, it depends on what you place value on. I wouldn't call it the least. To me, just again, playing music in front of whoever is the most. But point being, my value system is not, I'm going to put a roof over my kid's head, is not, I'm going to stick around for my immediate family because they love me and I don't want to put anybody through. I don't want to be absent, because being absent is hard on people. It's hard on my family for me to be on the other side of the country. I don't have a dog. I very purposely don't have a dog because I can't really be responsible for that. And so there's 101 human things that I choose not to do, that I'm not able to do because I'm in pursuit of my art. So that is what I should have said, is that it is just difficult, and you either prioritize the art over top of that your mother wishes she could see you every weekend, or that you have whatever responsibilities. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. Is it's a lot of work, and the only gain is the art, and that's maybe enough, or maybe it's not enough. You know what I mean?
Well, speaking of your family, real quick, we got a message on the text that says, "Mom, Dad, Gina, Josh, and Anthony love you. Keep making music and making history."
Yeah, that's my people, man. Shout out to the DeCaros. That's great.
Yes, sir. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on, and you know, I hope that you're able to make it back to LA pretty soon. And I'm going to keep, picking at this. And I know that, you know, like I said, we talked about it a couple of years ago and had a little bit of a false start. And, and then my agency thing started picking up a little bit, and I know you've got stuff going on or whatever, but
I still think it's the right dream. I really I'm remiss that we didn't follow through with that, and I'll take the blame for that. But let's have this conversation again, because I want to make these records. I'm in, you know?
Bet. That's what's up, man. Well, be safe, and hopefully, you know, we'll all be allowed to go outside again pretty soon. There he is.
I got a rip. Yo, thank you, Malachi, and thanks everybody for watching. And man, you're the man. I will look you up as soon as I get back to town. Okay.
All right, sounds good, man. Yeah, let's
DMV, baby.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, bro. Thanks so much.